Hello everyone and welcome back to the Educational Currency Podcast. I'm Chris Kaladakis from Maximum Education.
And I'm Robert Lamoski from the Coaching College and Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu.
Look, welcome today guys, and today is one of our first episodes this season where we're going to be having a number of guests coming to our show with the purpose of talking about being a teacher at different points of your career and the different challenges that come up in your career at these different points and experiences you might be having. And today we're starting off right at the beginning, and today I would like to welcome Miss
yeah.
Miss Alannah Gebron. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Okay. And look, we're going to start off nice and easy, Alannah. So give us a bit of background. Tell us about your educational journey so far.
All right, well, I went to high school at St. Ursula's College in Kingsgrove. So that was an all-girls high school. And then once I graduated from there in 2018, which was like over 5 years ago, I then went to the University of Sydney where I completed a double degree with a Bachelor of Education in Secondary Mathematics and a Bachelor of Science. So I had to choose two teaching areas. My first one was maths, and then my second teaching area is geography. And then once I did that, which was a 5-year degree, I then went straight into teaching, and that's where I am now. So I have a full-time job, and I'm 3/4 through my first year of teaching. And that's
Wow, congratulations. It's quite an accomplishment, especially to come straight out of uni and into the teaching. And I'm lucky enough to have met you there.
Yeah.
And you're pretty fresh, aren't you? You're 9 months out into your first year of teaching.
Yeah.
And look, as Rob mentioned, he's worked with you.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, you actually are off to an amazing start, just with decisions being made with longevity in mind in what you're getting involved in. And that's a bit of what we want to discuss about it today a bit. So look, let's go now to what's kind of brought you into teaching. So what kind of motivated for teaching to be your pathway? Were there any mentors? What experiences?
Yeah, so I'd say for me, I kind of always looked at the role of a teacher as someone who kind of nurtures their students to build on their knowledge and also their self-confidence. So I kind of wanted to have a job where I had the role to be a mentor and to guide students to help them for their future. Because at the end of the day, high school is setting them up for their future.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to have a job that was meaningful and would provide me with a rewarding and fulfilling experience. And I just thought I wouldn't get that anywhere else besides being in the classroom with students that I could help guide. And for me, I did have a teacher at my school that was kind of the person who I'd say inspired me to become a maths teacher. So it was my teacher in year 11 and year 12.
Yeah.
I always kind of liked maths, but it wasn't, like I wouldn't say it was my dream to become a maths teacher. But going into year 11 and 12 where I had my maths teacher, I guess I kind of always doubted myself with my marks and everything. Like I would do pretty well, but I always kind of looked at the negative. And for me, I feel like my year 11 and 12 teacher, he was the one who kind of instilled possibility like in me. He had confidence in me and he believed in me, which kind of made me believe in myself as well.
Wow.
So for that, I just, after like knowing that and just, having that type of experience, I feel like I wanted to give that back to other students as
Pay
well.
It forward, eh?
Yeah, basically pay it forward.
Very, very impressive. Yeah, teachers creating teachers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for me, like I say, he was like my inspiration in wanting to become a maths teacher. And here I am now, maths teacher.
So was there, just for students in high school, was there a particular character trait that inspired you about him?
Yeah.
Would you pinpoint it down to one thing? Or what was it that, as a teacher, made him so inspirational and a role model for you?
I just said the fact that he was always so positive and he actually believed in us.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a class, I'd say we had a good class culture where we were all we all worked together, and he was the one who kind of instilled that in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we were working as like a team, and he would always say things that would be like, he'd be really positive with us when it came to like what we were good at, and he was good at expressing that. So he kind of helped build that confidence, which made me feel good. And it was like, oh yeah, I can do this. I am good at I am good at maths. And I guess it was just that feeling, the fact that he was a genuine teacher, we trusted him, and I guess.
Yeah, it's good. From what I'm gathering, he created an environment where you worked together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a destructive competitive environment. Someone trying to chop someone down for the better mark or for the better position. And that, when we've had previous teachers in the past, for example, like Nick and Simon coming in. Simon was a principal and Nick was the coordinator of Sydney Catholic Schools for English. They said the same thing. Your teacher had the passion, the drive, created that environment of learning, etc. So what's one characteristic from him that you bring into your classroom?
I would say, what would I say? I would say the fact that he was just so genuine and positive with us. Like, if he didn't do so well, it wasn't like he kind of looked down on us or anything. He was like, all right, how can you do better? What can you do? Just the fact that he believed in us and he actually cared. And knowing that he cared was a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you bring that across into your classroom as well.
Definitely. That's the one thing that, what I try to do, and I hope that I do that well.
Look, it's good, and I can see that, you're trying to keep his identity confidential, but we have to make sure we share this episode with him, because it sounds like he's a great teacher, okay?
We'd like to have you on the podcast.
We'll get you there. But it's, just knowing for any teacher that awards what they do for their students, and then obviously, that they pay it forward, and that positivity is infectious, isn't it?
Definitely.
And then you get to use it in your class as well, so that's great. Well, look, let's now focus on your first year now. How has your first year compared to kind of what you learnt at university? Has it met expectations, or has there been a bit of stuff out of left field? How's it felt so far?
Well, I'd say it's very different to just being at uni. Like, that's why it's good that you have placements, so you get that experience actually in schools, because a lot of the time you're just reading off articles and from other people's experiences, but it's not the same like when you're actually in it. It's very different. So I'd say it definitely has exceeded my expectations. I love it. Like, it's been great. And I think I owe it a lot to the school that I'm at. I think I got really, really lucky with the school that I'm at. In terms of the staff and the students, I've had a really positive experience. I'd say it has exceeded my expectations. One thing that I kind of always expected the fact that it'd be a lot of work in my first year, but I did find it challenging at the start to kind of balance personal life and my work life, because I felt like after work I was always lesson planning, and even on the weekends I was continuously lesson planning. So I did find that something a bit hard to juggle with, and I was thinking to myself, is this the way it's always going to be as a teacher? And that was something I was a bit worried about. But over time, I've kind of learned how to deal with my time and to manage it better and be more efficient and effective with that. So in terms of that, I would say that it's met my expectations. It's a little bit different actually going in there. So you have these expectations and they were met, but it's different when you actually experience it for yourself.
Yeah, and it is good that you identified the work-life balance, because it does have a big dropout rate teaching, and that's one thing you've got to get on top of. What supports you with your well-being, that you have a life outside of school, and you're not taking home any dramas or too much work or anything like that. So that's great.
Having the team around you, that's the most important thing. I think just mentioning the other two very experienced teachers we had, with Nick, Mr. Boszkowski, he said the same thing. When you're new to teaching, attach yourself to those teachers that are positive. The teachers that are negative may drain you. So in your experiences, how did you find the teachers around you?
The teachers around me, they're the reason why I've had such a positive experience. So I got really lucky with the maths department at my school. They've all been so supportive and so helpful. And it definitely wouldn't be this way if it wasn't for them. They've helped me so much. And that's why a lot of first year teachers I know would feel that pressure and that stress, but the staff at my school have really helped to ease that, because I know that they're there to support me and I can ask for help, and I'm not really scared to ask them any questions, whether I think they're dumb or silly. I'll just ask them and they're there to help me.
That's right.
So,
The only dumb question is the one you don't ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, it was good when you came in. It was a well-balanced department of males and females.
Yeah.
And you did have that female staff of the
Yeah.
head teacher being a very experienced teacher, as well as you got another 2 female staff of that were actually there for you, which is very important. Plus, they're very caring people.
Yeah.
So it was quite the gauntlet.
It was good because I also went, like, I can go to different people for different things because there's such there's a good, range of different types of personalities and characteristics as well. So
and you kind of learn different things from different people, and some things will connect and some things won't.
Yeah.
That's how you kind of cultivate yourself in your first few years.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got the right idea there. Now, we've mentioned maths department. Maths department's the best apparently, okay? Let's bring it to
I
maths.
didn't say it, she did.
But let's focus on maths now. What makes maths great? What makes it your passion? And as you said, you're mathematics and geography trained. What kind of led to being maths? And it sounds like you're enjoying teaching mathematics.
Yeah.
Why is it great? Tell me as a non-maths teacher.
Well, I think maths is great, not just like putting the content aside, because some students will look at the content and be like, oh, I don't really care about this. When am I going to use this in everyday life? In my future, I'm not going to be an engineer. I'm not going to be this, so I'm not going to use it. But the good thing about maths is that it's not just about that content. It's the skills you learn from that content. So, for example, problem-solving skills. And the fact that those types of problem-solving skills, they promote and encourage critical thinking. And, if they're doing a challenging question, it helps build resilience. If you get something wrong, how can you go back and look at it and see, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? Using their critical thinking skills. So that's something that you need in everyday life. It's a really valuable skill to have. And I think maths helps build that skill. And whether you think the content is relevant to you or not, it's the skills you gain from doing mathematics problems and all of that is really valuable to them, like now and later in their future. Because, going into a job, no matter what job it is, you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to problem solve. Nothing is always just straightforward. There's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be problems you need to solve. Yeah.
So what was the problem that you solved? So stepping into the maths department, you went, okay, these people are my parents. They are my parents.
Yeah,
they are my parents' age.
Yeah.
So what was one hurdle that you can say, I'm very proud of myself, I got over?
Yeah, I would say behaviour.
Yeah.
Right? Because with the boys, at an all-boys school, which is very different for me because I went to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
I've only really grown up around girls as well because I don't have any brothers. So for me, it was like a whole different world.
Wow,
so to me, I was kind of thrown into a new world that was very different. I've only really been around a lot of girls. All my cousins are girls, most of them. So it was very different. And for me, that's something that was new and something that I had to learn how to deal with. And in that case, I guess I had to try and figure out what works best for the boys. How can I manage their behaviour? Because they have a lot of energy and they're really enthusiastic. But how can I work with that in a positive way to, ensure that they're getting the best and the most out of the lesson? And
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is, and it's true. There are differences, aren't there?
Yeah.
It is something you've got to adapt your mindset to. That they're going to learn in a different way, and energy. It's funny because my story is actually a bit reverse. I went to an all boys school, and then my first job was in all girls school, and my panic was the quietness. So I was like, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, it's very different.
But stuff was still happening, but I wasn't picking up on it.
Yeah.
So there are definitely challenges. Yeah. Let's have a look at your classroom then. What does Miss Gebron's classroom feel like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? I'm walking in there. What would I expect?
I think it depends on the type of students I have in the class. So it depends on the mix. I'd say every class of mine is very, very different.
Yeah.
And it all kind of depends on those students. So I'd say for my class, it's a space that I hope is a safe space for all of them. A place where they can feel comfortable to ask questions. And, whether they get something or they don't, there's no silly question. I'm always there to help. And I make sure that they can come to me for anything. I always make sure I go around to every student in the class as they're doing their work and ask them how they're going. So I'm just constantly checking up on them. So I'd say that my class is a class that is supportive, a place where my students can work together also as a team. And, they don't see each other as different or that's not my friend. We're all together, we're working together as a team. And they can really come to me for anything.
That's great. You really set those, that's the teacher you had when you were 11 and 12. It sounds like you've really modelled on him, which is great. Really good to see, especially someone having such a positive impact on your life. And then you're bringing those elements that helped you get to where you are, and now you're passing them on. So what would be any negative incidences that you would like to warn people stepping into your position? What would you say was the one thing? Because it does have a high dropout rate, and we're super grateful to have you because I've seen firsthand you've done phenomenally well. It's almost one of those things where if we can get more young people like yourself that are starting the profession to do what you've done, we wouldn't have such a high dropout rate. How did you find out about the job and how were you so successful?
All right, so in terms of how I found out about the job, there's actually a website, which I have forgotten the name of, but there's a website that I think most teachers know about it.
Teachers on Net?
Oh, that's what it was, yeah. Teachers on Net. I went on that and I basically put in, I think you can put in preferences of what you're looking for. So I looked up mathematics teacher and there were a whole range of positions that were available. So I basically just applied for all of them. And with my resume, it's something I had been working on for quite a while. So basically all my past jobs that I did in high school and outside of high school, I made sure I put those in. I put in what school I went to, my ATAR, and I wrote a bit about myself. So that was my resume and I just kind of applied, I put that. I also personalized it to each school. So I did change it depending on the school that I was applying for.
So you did a bit of research on the school you were applying to.
Yeah, and because you also have to put in a cover letter. So with my cover letter, you have to make sure that it's personalized towards a certain school. So you're not just putting in a generalized one.
You did formatting as well, colour scheme and formatting as well. Yeah, that's a big thing right now in jobs too.
Yeah, I made sure it looked professional. There's a lot of Google Docs and even Word docs. There's templates that you can use to make it look really good too. So I did all of that and I applied for every single one, and then I got a few interviews at different schools. So I just went for all of those as well. In terms of preparing for the interview, I guess I just kind of looked up on the internet the type of questions they might ask me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just came up with some dot points for myself. And then most of it I was just I'm just going to go and just be myself in the interview. And that's what I did. And I got the job at this school right now.
Did you have any other offers or was it just... So,
I did.
So what made this one? So we're glad to have had you. Absolutely. I don't work there anymore though, but it was a great place.
Yeah.
It is still a great place to work. So what stood out about the interview with Simon?
I would say,
with
Simon and the coordinator. I would say, if I had to compare it to the other interview I did, I'd say the type of questions they asked me and the way that Simon kind of went about the whole interview, I just kind of had a good feeling about it. So the way he gave his questions, I liked the type of questions he asked me. To me, it made me feel like, he as a principal knows what he's doing. And they also reassured me that as a first year teacher, I would get the support that I need, because that was something I also asked. I asked about what type of support would I get as a first year teacher, and all of that type of stuff. If I compare it to the other interview that I had, I'd say there were questions I didn't really, connect with as much. They were two very different interviews. And I felt that the interview with Simon, I just felt there was more of a connection to the school and the values of the school that I liked.
Yeah, great.
I connected to.
He's a professional, isn't he?
Yeah, but
he's pretty good.
This is very important. I mean, your job interview, whoever's interviewing you, more than likely is the principal or the coordinator. And they're the ones that will be the boss.
Yeah.
So if you get that, little bit of a military and doesn't seem to be of a caring nature, well, where are you stepping into? Whereas like you said, with Simon, I'm assuming Kate as well was in the process.
Yeah, and even Kate as well. Even because they were asking me a bunch of questions and then I asked some of my own questions at the end. And I liked their responses. And I could tell that they were good people. They cared about, they were enthusiastic about their own jobs. And that to me is attractive about, like, if they love their job so much, then surely I'll love it too.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting to hear too in that aspect as well, that, you know, that those people interviewing, they are the face of the school, and, you know, in this time of teacher shortage, you know, they want to attract good people to the school. You ask good questions too, and the fact that you're like, how are you going to support me as a new teacher? Because schools can have different perspectives, and maybe not so much from the management, but even sometimes from staff, that, you know, the new teacher, they're going to be work, you know, you've got to help them out with programs and all that. And sometimes you get that vibe from school, but it's great that, you know, the people that interviewed you made you feel positive, that, you know, you come to us, we'll look after you, you'll be safe. And based on your previous responses too, they've lived up to it so far, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
I know that I made the right decision, because I love going to work every day.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's something. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
We want to we would like more people to have your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone has my experience.
Well, that's a new point you've actually brought up too. We haven't actually heard much about the interview process and how influential it is, and I find that rather interesting. And that's something that school management needs to take note of as well. You know, if you want to attract good staff, you know, you really got to put your best foot forward and make them feel cared about and supported.
Because in reality, you're both being interviewed. You're not just interviewing. You're not interviewing just for the job. You're interviewing the principal and where you're working as well.
Yeah.
So the interview is a 50-50 split. Because like I said, in this market, you had an option of a few schools.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have given you an offer. So when principals or head teachers need to know, you're not just interviewing that person for the job, they're interviewing you as well to see if they want to come and take the job. And that's the type of market that it is now.
Yeah.
And sometimes if the teacher's been in the workforce a little bit too long, they think could have been like 20 years ago where people are begging at your door.
Yeah, and I'm going to find the person with more experience, and they'll
That's
be able to handle everything. So
Yeah.
it has changed in this day and age.
Yeah, teachers that have moved on with that change and have that more caring approach, you know, you will attract the right people as they have. So well done on the interview process.
Thank you.
So after the interview process, what happened? What did you feel like? Okay, where am I going to? So what was your feeling like? Like they said
After the interview,
Yes.
or once they told me?
Once they told you got the job.
Oh, I was really excited. Like, yeah, I remember I got a phone call from Simon, and that's when he told me that I got the job. And it was a good feeling. I was really excited because I knew it was also going to be something really different for me. So, yeah, I couldn't wait to start.
Then starting day one.
Yeah.
Good points, bad points. What happened?
Well, the first day was a day more with just staff. So I guess like meeting all the staff, everyone was really friendly and, you know, welcoming. So that was a good thing. My first day with the students, I was definitely very nervous. I was very, very nervous for that. It was a whole mix of emotions. I was nervous. I was scared in a way because I hadn't taught all boys before. And I know a lot of people would look at me and say, oh, she looks really young as well because I'm just, you know, a new teacher. Yeah. And that can be a bit scary because I don't know how the students are going to respond to that. Like, are they going to take me seriously or not because I look young? But I was really excited at the same time. And I guess once I went into my first class, and I guess you just kind of fake it till you make it, you know?
Right.
I remember that's what my teacher back at school used to tell me, fake it till you make it. So I just had that in my mind, and I was like, you know, just go in, act confident, act like you really do know what you're doing, that you didn't just start. And that's basically what I did. And once I went through my first lesson, it kind of put me at ease, and I was like, oh, this actually is not as scary as I thought it would be. And over time, it just kind of got easier and became more natural. Standing up in front of the class and so on. And
you had quite a crazy start too. So if I remember correctly, you were on the Year 17.
Yeah.
And that means you had to do like a lot of orientation programs. Yeah. And like, how did you find that? Because obviously, once again, uni kind of prepares us for, you know, the teaching and the academics and the behavioural stuff too. But then the craziness of school, that stuff, like in your first year, how have you adapted to all those special projects and things we do for different year groups? Like, starting off with that Year 7 orientation program, that would have been something very new to you. How did you find that experience? Well, I actually thought that was a really good experience because not only were the Year 7 starting at high school, I was starting my new job at the high school. So it was a really good way to kind of introduce me to the school because I was learning along with the Year 7s.
the rules of the school and the culture of the school and the values. So I actually thought that was really helpful for me, being my first year to be a part of the Year 7 orientation, introduction, and everything like that. So yeah, I thought it was great actually. Like I wouldn't have wanted to start with like Year 10 or seniors because they would probably know more than me when it came to the school.
And that is a common thing too, like you kind of, and you might have found out later on with your Year 9 and 10 classes, they're more like, oh, who are they? And they'll challenge you a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, Year 7, if you're all starting fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's knowing the stuff. Obviously, I used to work there. That's the whole point of you grab a new teacher in and okay, where are her strengths? What's the best place for me to start? And that they did that really well.
Yeah.
And then you have someone who not just did that, as the maths team did that for you, you accelerated with that. So it was really, from myself coming in, I was at the school for about a year and a half, watching that process. Okay, this is the way you bring a new teacher in. And it was really good to see, especially with the maths department, you know, watching how, okay, like it's a young teacher, it's a female teacher at a boys' school.
Yeah.
Okay, there's certain aspects we had to be careful of. Okay, year 11 and 12, okay, not now. Year 7, okay, hone your craft, get that classroom management down pat, which, you know, you've obviously done really well, and especially in a school full of 30 kids. What our class is like 28, 32, in a class, you know, and it's not an easy feat. Anything you'd like to give advice to, especially around the classroom management, because that seems to be the biggest pitfall.
Yeah. Well, I'd say what works with the boys at my school is, well, I remember Simon actually said to me in the interview, the boys thrive off routine and structure. So for me, to help kind of manage the behaviour, I guess it all starts off with how they enter your classroom. So a lot of the teachers did give me advice, even the assistant principal. I asked her for a lot of advice on what I should do when I start with the boys in terms of behaviour management. And I was told what works best is if the boys line up outside in 2 lines, make sure that before they enter the classroom, they've calmed down because they might have come from recess or lunchtime. So you don't want them coming in, you know, all like crazy, I guess.
Yep.
So you make sure that they're lining up properly, and that's something that I've kind of stuck to, because the times when they didn't line up properly and they kind of just let them in, that's when I know the lesson just did not go to plan.
So you actually felt it through experience.
Yeah, I've definitely had both experiences. So they'd line up, and then when they're ready, I'll say, all right, I'm ready for you. And then once they're ready, they come inside. And the first few times I did it, if they did not come in properly, I'd make them go outside and do it again, go outside and do it again until they did it properly. The boys didn't want to keep doing that. So like by the 3rd time, they're like, okay, let's just enter quietly and stand behind our desks. And then I would greet them. I'd say good morning or good afternoon, Year 10. And then they'd sit down. And sometimes what I do, especially when I can tell they're really like not ready to just be sitting down and doing work, I'll even say a prayer at the beginning of the lesson. And I noticed that actually really helps a lot. It helps calm them down. And the times that I haven't stuck to that and I haven't been strict with that, and I'm just like, all right, boys, just come inside, it really sets off the whole lesson. Yeah. So I've noticed that, and I know now I have to stick to the routine at the beginning of the lesson.
That's great. Yeah,
well done.
It's foundational stuff, you know.
Yeah.
These little things, they do assist in the class. So yeah, having a routine and obviously having been planned for your lesson and what you're going to go into. You've also mentioned too that you have to kind of be different for the different year groups as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, and with what you said before about Year 7, you'll find you'll always have a good attachment with that year group because you are the group that started together.
Yeah.
They'll have a special place with you. But then, as I said, you're talking about like maybe Year 9 and 10 class. You also had to teach Year 12 as well this year.
Yeah.
What were the challenges there? Because they would have been slightly different, I imagine, as well.
Yeah. Well, I had a smaller Year 12 class, and I took on the Year 12 advanced class.
Yeah.
So I'd say the challenge with that is not behaviour management. They were actually a very good class. They were very quiet, actually. So the challenge was more the content for me, especially because I missed the whole year 11 with them. And I just went straight into Year 12 with them. That was a challenge for me. So for me, it was a lot of preparation. It was a lot of going over the content before the lesson to make sure that, I also was really confident with the content before I went into the lesson. So the challenge was content in terms of Year 12.
And look, that situation is an anomaly too. Like, it is very rare for a first year teacher to be putting the Year 12 straight. Like, even speaking from my own background, I probably didn't get year 11 until about maybe 3 years in, and then progressed up into Year 12 too. So that's a testament to your hard work and the faith that had you. And from what I hear from the students, you did very well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
It was very intimidating though. I've said
and it would be.
I was really scared and I was really intimidated and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to teach Year 12 advanced.
Then that's the big advanced. It wasn't standard. You're like, hey, you're right in the deep end.
Yeah, I was thrown into the deep end, but then I thought to myself, I'm gonna do it because if I just jump into the deep end now and do it my first year, I know that after that it's gonna be so much easier. So I'd rather just do the
100%. I know once your notes are prepared, next year rolls over the same again. And you become an expert at teaching that.
Yeah, and I had the support also, like from Rob and from Kate, the coordinator. They helped me so much with Year 12. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if it wasn't for them helping me.
Yeah, but it's a testament to you too, Alannah. It ain't easy and you swam with it.
And what he was as a more mature teacher, you actually approached us. So we'd walk into the classroom, here she is, what about this content? How do you do this? How would you teach that? And we're naturally teachers. You want to teach. So you're teaching a classroom. You're teaching in front of you. You've got a student that you would have been one of your students. You could have easily taught this person in a class a few years back in high school, year 11 and 12. Here they are as teachers, and they will we just naturally just fit into that so easily. So as a new teacher, exactly what you did was fantastic. Walked into the classroom, there's this question, how would you do with that? Okay, let's sit down, let's try and work it out together. And it was great, really crafting your skill. And that's the one thing, for example, that came out from you really well. We're walking into the classroom, here you are, and you watch the person, okay, how's she going? We all talk, all the senior teachers talk. And it's like, she's asking questions. She's really putting in that effort. And you may not think teachers notice, but they really notice. Especially a new teacher walking in, all eyes are on you. And it's just a question of wanting that new teacher just to put that effort in, having that passion. And well done, congratulations on that. And again, you're a young female teacher moving into an all-boys school. I've got to hand it to you.
You handled it very well.
There is no deeper end.
No. And look, there's two sayings that I'm thinking of. The first one is as well, your first 2 years are your hardest. So if you're really getting in as much as you can, it will be easier after that. And that even goes for once you get into promoted positions too. Then you've got another 2 hard years every time you're learning something new. The other one that your classroom strategies make me think of too, there's a saying that you should never smile before Easter. Did you follow that? How long did it take you to smile in front of the boys?
I don't know how many people told me that. The thing is, look, it's hard for me because I feel like I'm always smiling. I did, especially at the beginning, I tried to be as serious and as stern as I could. But there's times when it's a bit hard to just not smile because, and students make jokes all the time.
Yeah, goofy and fun.
And I think trying to not laugh at certain things, because you can't, because if you do laugh, which I've done before, everyone else laughs 10 times harder. So it's I've learned don't laugh at the beginning. But
try your best not to.
Try your best not to, but also you want to be approachable to them as well. So it's still good to show them that,
you're human.
You're human.
And build that rapport.
You're not just angry all the time.
No, that's fair. I never made it either. Okay, I was always smiling within a week and a half or something,
Same, I smiled from day one.
And it is good. They've got to see that human and that's how you connect.
Absolutely.
Outside mentorship from the maths department, have there been any other supports that have helped you gravitate into your first year as well? Has there been anything else that's been really helpful to you in this first year that you could mention?
I would say, because I have a Year 7 homeroom, so the Year 7 coordinator, she has helped me a lot as well, in terms of how to do with behaviour and like being there to back me up when like there's an issue, and I will go to her and I say, what do I do in this situation? So in terms of behaviour and how to deal with them, she's been really helpful as well.
She's a gun. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. That's excellent. So finding your wellbeing supports as well there too, and on that side as well.
Yeah.
And then in relation to just preparation and all that, any strategies that you've taken on that have helped you plan for your classes? Like, so how did you get ready for these classes? Like, obviously you liaised with the department, but like in relation to like lesson planning and programming, how did you work around that in your first year?
I kind of struggled with it at the beginning because when you go to uni, you have to create very detailed lesson plans, like extremely detailed. And for me, I think I started doing that, but then I was like, this is not really realistic. If you have like 4 periods in a day, how can you?
It's not feasible.
No, it's
not feasible.
It's not realistic at all. So at the beginning, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to do these lesson plans. But then I started to realize, you know, I do go in with a plan for all of my lessons, but I became more efficient and effective in the way that I wrote my lesson plans. And I guess looking ahead of time, so looking at your scope and sequence, so you can see what's coming up. And I also went a lot to the teachers in the staff room, like in the maths department, and I just asked them, how are you going to teach this? What are you doing for that? And a lot of the time they would share their resources with me, so that would take a bit of the load off at times. Yeah.
And I think Alannah made a very good point there too about the amount of pressure you're putting on yourself to do these lesson plans, because that's what you're taught at uni and you thought that's what's going to happen. But then I think new teachers need to hear that your first year, it is a lot of survival, and then if you can get resources from peers, that's great. And you don't need to be giving these distinction level lesson plans. As long as you've got some points that will guide you through each lesson, like that's great advice from new teachers.
100%. I mean, when you step into class, your first day at work, what they've taught you at uni, just forget about it. Don't bother. I'm saying it first.
We do support tertiary education here.
We do support tertiary education, and we'd actually like people to teach it that are teachers.
We need to get someone here, to speak up for it maybe.
We'll get someone. And the stuff, mate, being a Jewish student, going through that stuff, going, okay, would this really work in a classroom?
Yeah.
Like how are they going to step and produce these complicated, detailed lesson plans with all these scenarios that are going to happen and every little bit of minute accounted for, when I knew going, okay, this isn't right. The lesson plan is more stressful than the actual lesson.
Yeah, honestly.
You must have experienced that too, not even just in your first year, but even at university.
Yeah, at university.
When they're teaching, but then you're doing your pracs as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you start to realise when you're doing your pracs, you're like, these are some plans. I mean, you have to do them, all your pracs, but you're like, these are not realistic.
Yeah.
That's something that university need to maybe overhaul or really look into, or just ask head teachers for their advice.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing like feet on the ground, hands on.
Yeah.
And if you are in front of a classroom, say 5 or 10 years, you've lost track of what's happening.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, university has its place. You do need that 4-year degree to mature.
Yeah.
You know, your brain grows, you learn to do the research, you learn to write in a sophisticated way, to update yourself.
Yeah.
But then I do believe that actually the last year needs to be catered for around getting into the profession from people that are in the profession.
Well, you're right, because my toughest year I felt, not academically, because obviously there's challenges of the way, but 4th year was just the most struggling year, because you are a bit wiser because you've done all those pracs as well. I also remember too that probably the lectures and tutors that I connected with better were the ones who were still part-time teaching and were more removed. And it's funny, you can sense that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned success a lot of time. So far this year, what would you say is your biggest success? What is the thing you're most proud of so far?
I think I'd say getting through year 12.
Yeah.
Getting through teaching year 12 advanced, that has been my biggest success.
Yeah, 100% that would be the amount of challenge you would have had thrown right in the deep end. What would have been like just them finishing the course or seeing the marks they got or the connections you made? What would be the parts you would say was rewarding about that?
It was just rewarding to see them when they get their marks back and they were actually, like, they've improved since the last exam, they're like, wow, like, I did so well. And like, just seeing them, I guess, grow in that sense, that's, like, really rewarding. It's their last year, they've got only one more exam left, their HSC, and then they're done, they're out in the real world. And that was really rewarding.
Oh, that's great. No, it's excellent. And year 12, it's a big rite of passage, isn't it? You feel like you're on that journey with them. And once again, in your first year too, more so than ever,
Yeah, absolutely. The way you remember your teacher, they'll remember you.
Yeah.
So that's the thing you got to understand. And being the age you are, make sure it'll be uncomfortable when you see them in nightclubs.
I don't go to nightclubs anymore.
This generation don't do that, mate.
Or when you go out somewhere and, hi, miss. And this person's standing in front of you with a full beard. And you're going, who? So get ready for that one.
That happens pretty quick too. Sometimes they're only out for a month, but then their beards grow quick and they've been in the gym. They're unrecognisable straight away.
This 18, 19-year-old will walk over to you. You'll be there with your friends, your partner. Hi, miss.
And you'll be really unrecognisable.
That's good. And look, we've already mentioned how hard you're working this year. You've also made sure that through mentorship and a lot of the programs the school are running, that you're preparing for the future, like that you've got aspirations going in that direction. Would you like to fill in our audience on some of the things you're doing that are planning ahead for like higher levels of maths teaching and that? Like, what are some things you're doing right now?
Well, at the moment, I guess I'm just trying to focus on advanced and kind of working on my type of teaching with that. So working on my resources and looking at different textbooks and all of that type of stuff. And I do have goals like for the future to then move on to extension and so on. So at the moment, just for now, I'm just focusing on advanced, but I know that in like the next few years, I'll start I'm going to start preparing for extension so I can start teaching that as well.
And look, and if we've already seen in Rob's case too, once you kind of have that under the belt, you have so much flexibility in teaching. Like schools, they scalp you, don't they, Rob? They come hunting for you.
It is for any maths teacher out there. While you're at university, get your notes ready. So when you're actually at university, you should know what is in the advanced course, what's in the Extension 1 course, what's in the Extension 2 course. And the lecturers do present that. Now, a positive thing with the lecturers, they do teach you the content in there with extra stuff. Now, you could attend half the lectures, attend some of the lectures, please get the degrees, but then you're stuck. For example, I know, speaking to the principal when I was given the job, he said, well, the only other 2 teachers applied could teach up to standard maths. And I think I've mentioned it when I was working with you. Get your notes ready for advanced, extension 1, extension 2. You teach extension 1 and 2, you're almost guaranteed head teacher. Because the problem is, I find, is you can get through university and you get that piece of paper. Wait a second, how much of the maths did you actually do properly? Because you've spent 4 years learning maths. These kids spend 2 years doing advanced, extension 1, extension 2. Now you've had 4 years at university. So my advice would be to an up-and-coming maths teacher, even if you haven't done the extension 1 and 2 course, get those books in your spare time and go through the maths. And then you are in it because teaching is your passion, and you will be able to teach, God willing, you have that classroom management. But then having that content, as soon as you step in, out of university, you're way ahead.
Yeah.
You are so far ahead of everyone else coming out of university, you could almost pick the job where you want to go to.
And you mentioned too, it's not just about like what school you want to be at, but it's also, if they want to lock in an extension teacher, well, they're going to probably offer them an assistant position or a coordinator position
absolutely.
to lock you in at that level. So that's great.
And that was the great thing about you. All right, she's teaching advanced, but she's asking questions.
Yeah.
She wants to learn. She wants to further herself. Because like I said before, you're in a 4-year degree learning maths to be a maths teacher. And I know at university, they will go beyond what the Extension 1 and 2 course is. And all you have to do, as soon as you start teaching, is know, what will I be teaching when I'm at school? Okay, there's the standard course, there's the advanced course, there's the Extension 1, there's the Extension 2 course. On the Extension 2 course, we were joking with Mr. Brushkovsky, imaginary numbers, etc. That episode just came out now as we were filming this. And yeah, there they are, complex numbers.
Yeah.
The lecturers presenting them. Oh, they're in that part of the course. You know, you could look at networks, for example. Oh, I did advanced maths, I haven't seen networks. Wait a second, that's in the standard part of the course. And as you're at university, slowly prepare those notes. And if you do, sky's the option in teaching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my question to you, obviously, you know, you stepped off on the right foot. You know, you're this motivated person. It was great having someone young with all that energy coming in, passionate about teaching. Would you see yourself in these future roles of head teacher? Maybe well-being, assistant principal.
Look, I don't think well-being is something that I would be interested in. Maybe like assistant. To be honest, right now I'm just kind of focusing on like being in the classroom. Just being in the classroom, and I don't know really what the future like holds. I'm just going with the flow.
But you're a young, motivated person.
Yeah.
You are preparing your work.
Yeah.
You do come to work motivated to work. So there is a certain, you could say, maybe fantasy later on. Maybe I would want to become like Kate or Kathy, etc.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. So future head teacher.
We're declaring it.
We're declaring it now. So when you do become a teacher, we will have episodes of this podcast when you first started.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So we've booked you in.
I wanted to actually go back because we had mentioned all the hard work you're doing, and you said early on that you had to find that work-life balance. And the big thing that we try to really push out to our audience too is you've got to manage well-being. Well-being is everyone's foundation in teaching too, because not just the workload, but then the stuff you're hearing from the young people too, and it can be quite draining. With your work-life balance, what things are you doing specifically to support your well-being as a young teacher?
I would say, like, if I had to compare what I was doing at the beginning of the year to what I'm doing now, I'd say I'm actually giving myself time outside of work to just like do things that I like. Like I love going to the gym, and I kind of stopped going to the gym at the beginning of the year because I just had too much work to do and I didn't have the time for it. So now I'm kind of trying to focus more on myself outside of work. So giving myself that time to hang out with my friends and to go to the gym and just have that time out from work, because I think that's really important. And it also kind of reflects on you as a teacher when you're in the classroom. If you're not happy with yourself and you're not giving yourself that time outside of school and outside of work, then you can't really give the students your best either, and they can kind of sense that off you. So it's important to kind of separate that work life and give yourself time outside of work to focus on yourself and do what you like, your hobbies and
extremely, like, very true. And you'll find you'll go in waves throughout your career too, where sometimes you do feel overwhelmed and inundated, and life circumstances change. And we'll hear this with some of our future guests who are at different points of their career.
Yeah, because it's great, because we've got a young female teacher, and then we will have a 40-year-old female, well into the well-being, high up into the structure of the school, managing a family, managing her career, etc. So it's great to see, well, how does she get her life balance? You know, so at different elements in your time, you know, you meet a partner, you know, marriage, kids, etc. And all that piles on, especially with having that work-life balance, but having that time for yourself.
And it comes right back to what you're saying too. You do have to manage your health. Everything you said was true. You know, because even with me, you know, midlife,
Not quite, mate. Have you hit 40 yet?
Yeah, I'm right on it. Okay.
Well, you got to earn it, so we can't.
But even I have to consciously go, no, I need to exercise, I need to take some time out, I've got to slow down from all these projects and all that, you know, to realign. And then, it does reflect as myself and a teacher in class, you know, just having that bit more energy and, you know, being well rested. And you've spoken about sleep before too, Rob, our foundation of that as well, that you're resting well.
Yes.
Because that can be an issue, going anxiety about your classes for the next day too, keeping up at night. That impacts
That happened to me,
Yeah, as well, did it impact us?
I feel like, especially at the beginning, I'd go to bed and I'd have like 100 thoughts running through my head. And I was always thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing the next day? What's happening in this class? I've got this student, she's dealing with this. And like, for me, my head was just constantly just thoughts running through it. But now I go to bed and like, my brain's
Asleep.
I'm at ease.
What did you have to do there at that point? Like, what kind of helped you switch off? Was it just going to the gym, or did you have to do some sort of meditation or watch some shows that tuned you out? Like, what helped you in your situation?
I think it was more like I'm a bit of an overthinker at times, and I think just kind of like identifying what the thoughts that were in my head, and you know, talking to other teachers as well, and saying like, you know, I don't really know actually how to deal with it, but it's more like I identified what was going through my head, and I was like, this isn't right. I actually have to kind of let this go and just deal with that when it comes to school. And yeah, I guess going for walks and taking that time out, like just being somewhere like in a place that's calm and quiet.
Yeah, that's great advice for others as well.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for, you know, like someone else at your age that started the job is going through the same thing, and you actually answer us going for walks, taking that calmness down. You know, you don't want that to overwhelm you and cause you that stress and anxiety to stop teaching.
Yeah, and you actually highlighted a really good point too. That like you can't really solve any of the problems to get back at work.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no point. You're just worrying for nothing.
Yeah. Look, that's actually really good advice. My actual next question was, do you have any other advice that you'd like to give anyone who's currently in your position right now? So new teacher, 9 months in, might be finding it a bit tough. What are some things that have just helped you this year?
I would say the most important thing is asking for help and seeking advice from like your colleagues. So also like, I guess it depends on the type of people that you're around and the type of people that you work with. But for me, the most important thing was opening up and being honest with the other teachers and just talking to them when I actually needed help with something. Because if you just like bottle it all up and keep it to yourself, then that's when you can feel really, really overwhelmed and you feel a lot of pressure. And it just feels good to kind of let it out and tell another teacher how you're feeling. And they're more experienced than you, so they have, you know, they have the knowledge and they have the advice that actually helps. And yeah, that's helped me a lot, talking to other teachers. Yeah. Especially if I'm worried about something, they've been great, like, yeah, helping with the advice.
And you're probably a very good listener too. And like, I find that we've mentioned before with teachers too, and specifically good mentors, you know, they're going to give advice, and if they think you're listening to it and taking it on, they'll give you more advice, you know. So it's obviously showing respect to all these people too, which is extremely important when entering.
Especially in her case, when you ask for advice. Yeah. Because teachers are teachers, they like to teach, and you approach a teacher, ask them for help. It's in their nature to help you. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
We've got to ask you the one final question.
One final question.
The one final question we ask all teachers when they come on this show. There is someone out there who's thinking about becoming a teacher. They might be in year 12, they might be in another industry and think about jumping over. What could you say to them to bring them into the educational industry?
Convince them.
Being a teacher, it's really rewarding in the sense that you're a part of a community and you become someone's mentor and someone's guide. So you really are making a difference in someone's life. Whether it's just one student that you make a difference in their lives or a whole class, to me, that's the most rewarding thing. And yeah, just being a part of something bigger that I don't think any other job really brings besides teaching.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is a very meaningful career, and you've done well, and you bring that meaning to these young people. Well done, Alannah.
Yeah. Thank you. We can hopefully attract more people like this. This is the plan.
That's it. Okay.
All right. Absolutely. So thank you again. And what we have in store, like Chris says, we've got our beginner teacher who just started. Then we're going to bring in a newly proficient teacher, and we're going to bring in a teacher midway through her career, and then we're going to bring in probably the most experienced teacher I've found. Actually, my mentor. Yes. We started a new job, and he's been teaching in front of a classroom for 40 years. So we can get that whole range of experience out there. And the one thing that I'm seeing is that common trait across everyone, from a young age to a very experienced age, is that caring factor, that humanity. That, you know, you're shaping people's lives. We do take care of people's most prized possessions, their children.
That's right.
You know,
the most valuable commodity in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again. I'm Robert Naboski.
And I'm Chris Kaladakis. And Alannah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was great.
All right, see you later.